So this is how Bayern Munich lined up in defense, and it looks really weird. And that's because our team, our selection, Nagelsmann's decisions, everything about this 2-1 loss versus Leverkusen was weird. It wasn't optimum. It wasn't the greatest tactics from Nagelsmann. And we'll go into why Bayern Munich got exposed in this game. Defensively, our press wasn't effective offensively, and also Leverkusen pressed us, and it was just all in all disjointed. The tactics weren't good, the subs weren't good, so let's get straight into it. So this is how it sort of looked like in defense. In Leverkusen played a back three when they were building up play, which meant our pressing often looked something like Mane up front, Goretzka left wing, Muller in the right wing, because it was pressing those three centre backs in the back three, which left Kimmich and Sane in midfield. But Leverkusen only really had one player in this sort of area between the three centre backs. Say if our pressing formation was a bit like this, Leverkusen only really had one player for De Ligt, Upper and Pavard, which meant that there were players for Leverkusen in these sorts of areas where it was only Kimmich and Sane, or sometimes Sane was here as part of the front three pressing. The front three pressing was fluid, sometimes Muller, Musiala, Sane all crossed that front line. But it meant there was loads of space in these areas here for only Kimmich and Goretzka to deal with, and Cancelo was sometimes dragged here, he was sometimes far up, because when Leverkusen also got the ball, sometimes Cancelo Davies was far up, so once they broke with pace, it's only Kimmich Goretzka, or maybe even only Kimmich, they get past him, say they got past him, and then it's only the Leverkusen attack versus De Ligt, Upper and Pavard. And De Ligt struggled in this game also against Diaby's pace. He was quite slow to get there. We struggled in that transition because in offense we played a formation more like we're used to, more like this. But that meant that once we lost the ball and Leverkusen got on the counter, and they could get on the counter really quickly, there were spaces in behind here because Davies not able to track back quick enough, Cancelo not able to track back quick enough. Cancelo doesn't know whether to press forward, Davies doesn't know where to press forward. So all in all, Leverkusen dominated us from this, especially because Andrik dropped back to form a back three in their build-up, which meant our pressing was disjointed. Goretzka had to go forward, and as I said, this created lots of problems in the pressing. Sometimes Davies came back to make it a back four, but then Cancelo's kind of left in no man's land in this case, and it might have looked a bit like this if that happened. But then Cancelo's far forward, and Cancelo's not a winger, so maybe Coman should have been used in this system. And I hope versus Dortmund we'll see what happens, but I think Coman should play because Cancelo was not very good at all in this game. He lost the ball many times, the chemistry wasn't right, and if he's in like an attacking position, it's not really right for the team. Sane also wasn't that great, Goretzka was okay, defense wasn't that strong because they got in behind many times, but it was because we were overloaded in midfield, which was the biggest problem. So let's get straight into some picture analysis talking about this. So in this one, this is just one initial remark. Leverkusen, you see they crowded the box in the corners, and because I think this is because Sommer's quite a small goalie, the ball's here if you can see. But it meant that it was quite dangerous, the ball going in here, Sommer had to clear it out, so that might be a tactic against Bayern Munich in the future that we need to be wary of. Then this is what I'm talking about. You see here there's a back four when we're defending at this point. But Goretzka, Kimmich is broken, Goretzka is broken, these players are broken. So the press is broken. So it's really like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on 4 situation. And you see the Bayern high line, it meant through balls could be played easily to the Leverkusen players. It was very dangerous for Bayern. But why did we get into these pressing situations that were not good for Bayern? This is one of the reasons. So I said that sometimes we were a back three, sometimes when we were defending, we tried to shift back to a back four at times. But the transition between that is bad. We just lost the ball here. And that means that we're still in a back three shape. De Ligt is out of position, but Cancelo is clearly a right wing back, Davies left wing back. Centre mids are kind of out of position. But it means that there are spaces in behind that back three. So this was a good ball from Demirbay, I think, to Diaby, and it created a big chance for Leverkusen. So that transition between 3 and 4 wasn't great. So maybe Nagelsmann should have just played the back four today. Straight 4-2-3-1 in attack and in defense might have been better. This is what I'm talking about with the Andrich dropping back. So Andrich was playing CDM, but he dropped back into defense in Leverkusen's build-up. So it created the back three, and then Leverkusen's left back and right back, Palassi, I don't know how to pronounce his name, and Frimpong over here. But it meant that Bayern had to use 3 in attack to press. So it would be Müller on the right, as I described, Mane in the centre, and Goretzka on the left often. Curiously, Sané was placed on the right. But this meant that, you see here, they have to press, and that drags Goretzka out of position. That means it's only Sané and Kimmich in the midfield. And as I said here, there's only 1 or 2 players for all of Bayern's 3 defenders and midfield, and that meant there was lots of open spaces like here. There were wide open spaces for Leverkusen players to attack, and ultimately it was the midfield got overrun due to Nagelsmann's tactics. In this one, Müller has just pressed, Mane has pressed, and because you see Goretzka would normally be here. This is a free man, but Goretzka's probably pressed one of the centre-backs in this sort of area, which means that Sané is here and Kimmich, but it means there's so many free passes, so many players open for Bayern, and you see here, again, there's only 1 player occupying 3 centre-backs, which means that there are other spaces in the field where our midfield was being overrun, namely here. There's no one in these sorts of areas. Kimmich has to press there, and we were just being overrun because Davies is even tracking back here. Maybe if De Ligt tracked that man, then Davies could go here, but Davies was tracking the wingers also for Leverkusen, so it didn't really work in this aspect. Again, we see that formation 1-2-3 of the Müller, Mane, and Goretzka. And Goretzka's far up the field. That means Sané and Kimmich is here. And you see, this created instances where, why is De Ligt over here? Why is De Ligt not here? It's because the pressing wasn't coherent. Where is Davies in all of this? Maybe Davies is tracked back here. We don't know. The problem was that it was just incoherent pressing. So players are out of position. And even Cancelo, say they got the ball here, Cancelo doesn't know whether to press or whether to cover here or cover here. If Cancelo went to this player, then this player would be wide open. It was just incoherent pressing. It was the wrong system from Nagelsmann, and it doesn't work. And see, in this situation, Goretzka's covering this guy, Kimmich is covering this guy. There's a wide open space here for Leverkusen to play the ball. So ultimately, this is what cost Bayern. And then also Bayern often had to do long balls because Leverkusen themselves were super effective with their pressing. You see there's a wide open space everywhere. And say we had Neuer, this is also a point to go back to. Neuer might have been able to play a pass into midfield for Sané. You see he's calling for it, but Sommer in this case just does a long ball and then we lose it. And this was a theme throughout this game. We did many such long balls because we were pressed into submission, because maybe our midfield didn't provide enough options. Goretzka and Sané should have provided more options, or maybe the back three system in build-up wasn't quite good enough, that the wing-backs weren't providing enough options, but it just didn't work in build-up, so we were pressed to eternity. And now let's talk about Nagelsmann's tactics. So we were pressed and we lost the ball. We had to play long balls. We were dominated in this instant, but also our pressing meant that Leverkusen quickly had many counterattacks, quickly got in behind our defense, and also even having like De Ligt on Diaby, that's a curious decision because Diaby is so quick. The subs at halftime, very curious. Müller at least led us to have some semblance of decent pressing in the first half. He was subbed off, and we lost all of that pressing, and that's why both the Leverkusen's goals came from our lack of a good press, and then they got in behind and then had the easy opportunity to score. So I don't think Müller should have been subbed. Coman for Cancelo was a good sub, but Cancelo can't play versus Dortmund in my opinion. It has to be Coman, because Coman's able to be like a winger in the 4-2-3-1 also, which Cancelo isn't really. But overall, poor tactics from Nagelsmann. We were beaten off and on the ball today. So let's hope it's better versus Dortmund.